Welcome to this presentation. It's entitled The Lender's Handbook, and it's an update for conveyancers. It's brought to you by myself, Stephen Desmond, in conjunction with MBL Seminars. There's a lot to cover, so let's get cracking with the first slide. And this considers the three elements of the handbook. First of all, the part one of the handbook tends to be quite static, and this consists of the general standard lending instructions of banks and building societies who subscribe to the handbook. Part two, which consists of lenders' specific individual instructions and requirements, tends to vary on a regular basis. And just one point to mention at this stage. If you're acting for a lender on a particular matter and one of their Part 2 instructions are relevant at any point in time, it's worth bearing in mind that, as far as I'm aware, if one looks at the UK Finance website, which sets out the Part 2s of various lenders, it doesn't give you archives of previous Part 2s. So I think it's a good idea then, in that situation, then to make sure that you do keep a copy if you are instructed on a matter in terms of a particular lender and they have specific Part 2 requirements in relation to a relevant matter on the transaction. It's always a good idea to keep a copy of the relevant extract of that Part 2. And that Part 2 can change quite wildly. And Part 3 is something we won't consider, but this is specifically for firms which act only for the lender in a transaction. So if we're dealing with commercial transactions, it's quite commonplace to see separate representation. On residential transactions, separate representation, borrower and lender represented by different firms, usually tends to happen in circumstances where the firm is not on the lender's panel.